Hi, my name is Laura Weffer, and I'm a Counseling Psychology 650 student. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Haley Rosina, and I'm a third-year ROTC cadet here at UW-Madison.
Is it okay if I interview you a little bit about what it's like to be an ROTC?
Sure.
Can you take me through a typical day in ROTC?
Well, each day is actually different. We do physical training 6 in the morning till about 7:30, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And then if you can't pass a physical training test, you go also on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then on Tuesdays, we have class, and Thursdays we have lab.
Okay, so what is a typical class like?
Class is with Sergeant Bell. He basically shows us PowerPoints, videos about what we're learning about, and then we do a practical exercise. So for instance, we just learned land nav again, a refresher on land nav. So we practiced with compasses, did some map stuff.
Okay, so what you're saying is that your class is more actual knowledge based than physical.
Yes, it's like tactics, and it's like tactics knowledge. It's basically to prepare us for what we're doing in lab, which is more field exercises.
Okay,
which is Thursday.
Okay, so lab is definitely more physical than classes.
Yes, lab is where we actually go out, usually at Fracci Point or Picnic Point. We go out in the woods and we actually like run drills and sticks lanes and patrol lanes and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. So how does that differ from the things that you do Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays?
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays is physical training, and that's strictly working out and drill and ceremony. And for working out, it's basically preparation to pass the APFT, which is the Army Physical Training Test. And that contains push-ups, sit-ups, and running 2 miles. So we do a lot of upper body workouts, leg workouts, and a lot of running.
Okay, so you do a lot of physical exercises to prepare for these exams. Is that correct?
Yes.
What are these exams preparing you for?
Well, to commission in the Army, you need to be able to pass the physical training test. That's why if you can't pass, you go Tuesdays and Thursdays until you can pass. And then once you graduate ROTC, you become an officer. And part of having military bearing is being in good physical condition. And also, after year 3 of ROTC, you go to a summer basic training camp where you have to be able to pass a physical training test, and that's part of your score. And you also do an obstacle course, which is very physical, and everything that goes into your score leads to what branch you get into. So it basically, how physically fit you are can determine your career.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the different the different classes and preparations that you do eventually leads into your future within the actual Army.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yep. Your classes prepare you for the summer camp, which is kind of like basic training, only it's a little bit more intellectually based. Because for officers, the difference between being an officer and being in the Army is a college degree, so they want to make sure you're have the intellectual capacity to be an officer and also the physical capacity. And then after that, you have 1 more year where you further your training and polish off your skills, and then you branch and actually become an officer in the United States Army.
Okay, so being in like a college setting for ROTC is different than being in like a regular basic training. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, being enlisted is different. If you're in the National Guard, you go to drill, and that's kind of where you do your training rather than like in a classroom setting. And you also typically, most people enlist out of high school and usually don't have a college degree yet. Many go back for one, but don't necessarily have a college degree yet. Just to be enlisted, you only need a college degree to be an officer.
Okay, so the education that you get through your classes, through your labs, and through all your physical examinations prepares you for your later career within the Army. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What other aspects of ROTC in college prepare you for your later career?
On weekends, we go to things called FTX and like BFTX. They're basically like a weekend away. It's like away from Madison, where we go to a fort. We go to Fort McCoy usually, and there we just do more training, but we get with other units and other battalions. So like Maranatha, they're a Bible school south of here. They'll come and join us, and sometimes Milwaukee's there, or Whitewater, and we all get together and we do like drill and ceremony. That's like marching, and and like cadences and such. We do a lot of physical work. We do Humvee training, which is where you go in a military vehicle and it flips and you practice getting out. We do EST training, which is shooting targets. It's just a lot more. They have more equipment than we do, so we just get to do a few more things there.
So these weekend excursions end up teaching you more practical things, like more in the actual moment stuff. Is that correct?
It's more like the actual, like what we practice or learn about in the classroom, we actually get to see or do in person. Mm-hmm. It's like we're prepared for them. Like we do shooting on like screens we do shooting on screens in Madison, and then there it's just more, I guess, lifelike.
Okay, so it's definitely giving you a different perspective than you would get just being able to sit in a classroom.
Yes, it's more hands-on.
Okay. So what aspects of your life outside of ROTC has this experience of being within it actually impacted?
Well, it changed my major because now I'm going to try to join the medical service corps. So I'm a psychology major, planning on going to grad school to become a counseling psychologist. Mm-hmm. And I'll do military psychology and focus more specifically on post-traumatic stress disorder and trauma. It's also, I've got involved with volunteering at the Madison Veterans Hospital. I definitely have to work out a lot more than I normally would. It's just it's a big time commitment more than anything. It's pretty much every day there's a couple hours of things that you're expected to do, whether it's like through like emailing and like making things or actually being there. So it's just a big time commitment.
So it definitely has altered your actual daily living. Is that correct?
Yes, very much.
Okay, so can you give me an example of something that ROTC has taught you in the last 3 years?
Definitely resilience. If something doesn't work out the first time, there's always a plan B, another way to see it. Also, we focus a lot on teamwork. You never do anything alone in the Army. You have to get it approved by like multiple, like a hierarchy system. Like, so it's a lot of like working together and it like taught me to listen to like everyone's ideas and try to put them together and make the best idea to present as the final plan rather than just hate.
So, I had a question. Now I'm blanking on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What kinds of people would you say really flock to ROTC?
Well, it's actually, I would say, a large variety of different people. There's not like one specific soldier. It's actually very intellectual people usually. We have mostly engineering and medical students in ROTC, although we do have international studies, a lot of linguists. Many people know like 3 to 5 languages. It's a very intelligent group of people, but also, like I said, very physically fit group. And I think also a very responsible group of people. Maybe not their first year, but by the end you can just tell the people are more disciplined. They're just a little different than your average college student. They definitely take their education very seriously because it impacts so heavily like what they're going to be doing for possibly the next 20 years in their life with their military career. And a lot of people come from military families, so I think it just like holds a special place for them a little bit more than just like being a college student.
So the typical person has a more serious attitude and approach towards school or towards other aspects that also involve ROTC and the military in general than the typical college student, you'd say?
I would say there's a little bit more discipline, maybe not as much, because there's not as much free time, probably not as much going out, and a lot more time spent studying and working out and practicing for Thursday labs.
Okay. So would you say that there's a specific skill set that is required of someone to be in ROTC?
Basically, if you're hardworking and are willing to put the time in and like at least slightly responsible, and you come in as a freshman trying to do ROTC, they can pretty much mold you into like what you need to be. So if you're willing to learn, like you just need to have the attitude. They'll teach you all the tactics and like all that kind of stuff because no one really knows that stuff before. So basically just someone that cares about it enough to want to do it.
So what you're saying is that ROTC can actually make the person into what they need them to be. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying.
Okay, great. So would you say that there's not one specific type of person then?
Definitely not. Because ROTC is preparing you to be officers, you choose a branch, and there's such a wide variety of branches that you really couldn't even just have, like, the really strong, like, typical soldier that you see on TV would perhaps be in the infantry, but that's only one branch. Like, not everybody is shooting guns and planning ambushes and raids. There's also a transportation unit. There's medical service, which is what I'm doing. There's a lot of engineering. There's chemical. There's finance. There's marketing. There's just a lot more to the Army than what you see on TV. Therefore, you can't just have, like, your typical soldier that you would assume just, like, a big, tough, strong guy.
So is it safe to say that the stereotype of the soldier is definitely not what you've seen through your experience?
Definitely not. The media doesn't perhaps portray the whole Army necessarily. Sometimes it just portrays, like, the actual fighting that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you wouldn't necessarily see what's going on at a peaceful base because there's not really a story there, I guess. It's more just, like, a day-to-day. It's basically just a 9-to-5 job for some people. So, like, if you're not deployed.
All right, so that makes a lot of sense. So overall, what ROTC has really given you is a very structured way of going about school. It's made you put a lot more time into things and really feel like put a more serious aspect and tone towards a lot of things. But at the same time, it's given you an opportunity to meet a variety of different kinds of people that have also basically come together to form this group that works together and gains a lot out of their experiences. Is that a safe thing to say?
Yeah.
Okay, so I really appreciate all your time that you've given me, and I really thank you, and I really appreciate everything that you've done. So